What is up, folks? Welcome to another Budgetmonk video here, where I wanted to show off my Hungarian game. The year is 1571, and this is going to be a completely different style, a different video format on my channel, where I'm going to be showing it off via a series of edits. I will be actually just skipping, blitzing straight through the wars, but I was, as you guys know if you watched my previous video, in a very strong, powerful state as the Emperor rather, and I was in a position to be able to smash decisively most of my wars out. But either way, I hope that you guys enjoy the new format, and let's get straight into things. So immediately after making the first video where I was sort of showing off my early good start, I had very strong diplomacy, but the Poles were actually attacked in a aggressive expansion coalition war, and that coalition was huge, as you could see. It's kind of a shame because I felt like they emboldened themselves because I was their ally as a player, but nonetheless I was dishonoring that, and I did manage to ally the Mams, however, and call them in against the Ottomans, doing a sort of a multiple pronged attack. And I'm going to be skipping through these wars and so on in an effort to keep the video short, but nonetheless I would like to update you guys. So you can see here that I was able to take a fort and occupy enough provinces to take out one of the provinces available to release Bulgaria, but also I declared war on Serbia there before I peaced out, because he was guaranteed by the Ottomans. The next war that I go into is actually Provence, a war over the unlawful territory. Here you can see that he was excommunicated, which is nice. However, the French were guaranteeing him, and given enough time during the Second French and Anglo War, I was able to attack them without the French actually guaranteeing that. So that was a nice, easy, smooth victory there, releasing Lorraine from his grasp, but also Bar as a independent prince within inside of the empire. Next up was going to be Albania, who had actually successfully converted his land to Catholic, which was nice. This war was mostly actually versus his ally Venice, which did not prove to be too difficult, as I had previously weakened him, separate piecing him and annexing those two provinces, which of course are two provinces to join the empire. Yet another easy war here, integrating Croatia. I did initially hope that he would join the empire after releasing him from Venice, but he seemed to refuse. After this time, I desperately wanted to call that up and add it, gain that additional one imperial authority. So this was a really easy war here against England, taking this one province which was up for grabs, as I had taken war score in the fort on the mainland. It was nice and easy. He was not in the best shape after being defeated by the French, and going straight into another war here where I was not yet decided if I was going to try to reign in Italy or not, and it's a bit late, as you can see by the date, but to actually pull that off. But I did go ahead and fight a not so difficult war with the Pope in order to take some Italian provinces regardless, and those are more provinces which I can add towards the empire. But you can see they're passing the second reform in 1488, and I was hesitant to go any more than take two provinces from the Pope, as it was going to cost me a lot of aggressive expansion. Speaking of aggressive expansion, declaring a war here over Naples, which does cost a lot, but it's well worth it in the end, stealing that from Castile, using our French ally to help us out, and going straight into the Second Hungarian-Turkish War, which of course is a reconquest war. This was actually the hardest war that I fought so far, and probably the hardest fought period, where I was able to take all of Bulgaria with reconquest and additional province to actually release Byzantium, but boy did it cost a lot in terms of debt in particular. Well worth it though, as the Ottomans can serve as a really strong roadblock to prevent me from actually expanding. So with my truce being up with Castile, and Aragon being in a completely weakened state by rebels, needless to say, with France backing me up, I was able to crush Castile with my diplomatic ideas. He's actually fighting a war in North Africa, and steal all of Aragon as my subject. Now those rebels in Sardinia were successful, unfortunately, which means I did not actually gain Sardinia as a subject. But with that being said, First Century of Reformation spawns in Wurzburg here, and there's just a bunch of me doing force converts here. I'm not going to go into detail or waste too much time showing this stuff, but if you guys would like an in-depth on how I crushed the Protestant Reformation, make sure to check out my Austrian series where I break it down in detail. The first centre, however, was in Wurzburg, and he actually refused to convert to Protestant, which meant I couldn't enforce religion on him, and that actually ended up being a huge hindrance and actually setting back the revoke probably about at least 1 decade. With that being said, declaring a war on Savoy here, an imperial ban war, as he did manage to attack Burgundy while I was fighting Burgundy to enforce religion, which feels bad, man, and going straight into yet another reconquest on behalf of my Byzantium subject this time, when I have integrated Bulgaria, being able to take Adurin there as he did not even maintain it, the garrison, which feels good, and making sure to feed Byzantium. He didn't have a core on Constantinople any longer, but I did take a province out in the Crimea to actually release him as my next vassal and rinse and repeat. That 25 years has finally passed, and I'm able to take the province, the capital of Wurzburg, convert it, and get rid of that last centre of Protestantism, as well as fight many other battles in order to enforce religion throughout that time. Backing up the French against Castile here. The French were actually offensive against Castile, which I felt like was a big waste of time, but I actually turned out to be mistaken. However, he did have it handled, as Castile was very weak at the stage, and England doesn't pose much threat, so I made sure to fight my own wars at the same time. This time just going into Italy, some Venetian provinces for more land to add to the empire. Now, once my truce was up with the Poles, as I did promise him land from the Ottomans and actually not give him the land he desired, I went ahead and attacked him. Hungary does have a permanent claim on Moldavia once you complete your missions, and it is part of my cultural group apparently, once we become empire rank. So I'm going to go ahead and take that state for myself before I lead straight into another war against the Ottomans, and this time around I'm confident enough to just straight up smash them myself. A reconquest war feeding the Crimea, of course, and as I do have the Holy War CB, I'm not going to be focusing too much on reconquesting after this and feeding subjects, but more just taking land directly myself. Passing yet another reform there, which actually disallowed wars was inside the empire, and going straight in against Poland once again, but this time around I'm going to go ahead and feed the empire, in this case Bohemia, who of course will take that for free. And I just got a personal union over France, guys. So that was actually the luckiest union I've ever gotten in my life, because the ruler was about 30 years old and did not have an heir, and it took him about 25 years to die, and the entire time he did not have an heir. Going straight back into a Holy War CB this time against the Ottomans, pretty self-explanatory. I'm doing a really good job of keeping them down, as they do have a tendency to actually expand faster than I can kill them, but not this time around. I did find out in a previous game that even though you can disallow wars inside the empire, a Protestant league can be formed and led by somebody outside of the empire. So I'm desperately trying to take these provinces from Genoa in order to be able to add my land in the Iberian Peninsula to pass those final reforms as soon as possible. Here I'm doing some general allying to Protestants and so on in order to finally get their votes, and after adding all of my provinces, including some that I just recently converted from the Ottomans, I was able to bestow grace on the last nation, which I believe was Magdeburg, and actually acquire every single prince's vote at 1565. Not bad, considering I have a personal union over France, and I'm in an extremely strong position myself, being ranked second, and I'm actually the world's leading great power. So here we are, folks, not right where I left off. We're actually in 1571, where I have done a few things, including feed some of Italy to the empire, both Austria and Switzerland. I did just straight up grant Austria one of my provinces, which I intend him to own, as well as I just came out of a war feeding Holstein, a single province from Denmark, the only province he had a claim on, but that will prompt him to claim up the rest of the region, I'm sure, as it is high, priority. I've made them of vital interest, just about every European province that I already do not own. And in regards to the British Isles here, I did give Friesland this province, which was the only province here that I had not stated up. I granted that to him to give him the opportunity to claim up the British Isles. And yeah, I do have 2 war exhaustion, which I'm not that keen on. Kind of do want to let that dissipate, but my truce just came up with the Ottomans, and naturally I intend to absolutely smash them and 100% them, no problem. Now with that in mind, guys, you can see I do have some liberty desire, and that liberty desire is from my subjects that I had who are not members of the Empire. Pretty standard stuff. However, coming out from my Austrian game, guys, I did find that it is fairly easy to actually, believe it or not, stabilize them, and by placating the rulers with your prestige. Now, as the Emperor, you do gain a lot of prestige. In this case, I have almost 4 a month, or a year, is it? A year, rather. And I do recommend that you guys take the Defender of the Faith. I am pretty affluent myself. I also have some fairly high advisors going, but I'm doing well on my points. You can see here that my innovativeness is really high, and I'm way ahead in all of my tech. Speaking of which, I am much stronger than the Ottomans, even in my own right here. As you can see, I'm actually a military tech ahead of them, and they have not done well in their quantity and offensive ideas. They've got a total of 3 passed, whereas I have finished my quality and 1 in offensive. So I'm actually more potent than them in my own right, let alone the Empire and my personal union. Now, if you win wars back-to-back, guys, that's going to really give you a lot of prestige, which is going to allow you to placate. I recommend focusing on 1 vassal at a time and ultimately integrating them. But the reason I'm talking that manner, guys, is because I do have the save file in the description for all of my Hungarian brethren. Anybody who wishes to play this game from this point, you are going to be able to play it as the save file is in the description. And I'm going to be producing 1 other video in regards to the series, guys, but I didn't want to go full bore, as I just kind of let off doing something very similar in regards to Austria. So make sure to stay tuned, but definitely give me your feedback on this video, guys, if you like the format or if you didn't. I really would be open to constructive criticism, and thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time in another video.